Morning. Today's Monday, May 6th. Happy Monday, as Johan would say, and it is a happy Monday indeed for the Kroll family. On Friday, May 3rd, they welcomed Hank Christian Kroll into the world. Both mom and baby are doing well from what we've heard. Hank was 7 pounds, 15 ounces, 20 and a half inches. Last I chatted with Johan, it sounded like his big sister Keegan and big brother Nash were both doing great with the baby too. So their family's doing well, and I would think they're probably heading home from the hospital today. So blessings to the Kroll family. We'll be keeping them in our prayers. A little bit of housekeeping before I dive into some nerd stuff. Memorial Day event invites, pizza in the park. Went out last week. A lot of you have already RSVP'd, so thank you for jumping on that. That is Memorial Day Monday, May 27th. And if you could try and RSVP by the 17th, that would help us out a lot because we're going to try and send out park passes and then some additional information just so you have an easier time finding us in the park. So May 17th RSVP date, so we can send out those park passes. Onto the nerd stuff. Last week was a little touch and go early on in the market. We had a lot of economic data coming out, and then as we discuss on these videos all the time, anytime there's a Fed meeting, buckle up. It is kind of fun to watch the market jump up and down though, just with Fed Chair Powell saying one thing or alluding to another. So last week's meeting, struggling there. Given all the mixed economic data that we've received the first 4 months and kind of the stubbornly high inflation leading into it, the market was moving all over the place. But we did have Fed Chair Powell come as close to saying he was wrong as you're going to get out of a politician, I think. Back in December, he had kind of alluded to imminent rate cuts. Obviously, we're in May here. We're in the 5th month of the year, and that hasn't come to fruition. His version wasn't really an "I was wrong" as much as it was a "I was less right" about inflation and rate cuts. But he did say, so his quote was that he was less confident that inflation would fall to 2% in the near term. So we'll take that as a concession from someone that's basically a politician. And I feel like every time I'm talking about the Fed meeting, I have to use this expression, so I apologize, but I'm going to use it again. In a statement that was clear as mud, he did cast doubt on the possibility that the next move in interest rates would be a hike. So again, we're kind of constantly getting mixed messages from the Fed, but the meeting last week did seem like a step in the right direction in terms of maybe them being a little more realistic with where rates are headed. We did have a really busy week last week with different economic data points being released. So I'm just going to kind of boom, hammer through a couple of them. And then good news, this upcoming week, we get to breathe a little bit, which it figures that Johan would be out and leave me with all of these fun data points to chat on quickly. But hopefully he's home or going home today and get some sleep. Conference Board consumer confidence numbers were down pretty sharply year to date. We had the JOLT job opening measure was also down from the 12-month mark pretty significantly. And then there was an employment report for the month of April. Showed 175,000 new jobs when the expectation was 240. So pretty significantly lower. Kind of all those pointing to, primarily weak economic data coming out last week, which for where we are just kind of in the cycle is actually pretty good news. And that last one you could argue is a positive for the economy just because the growth rate at which new jobs were, like the employment growth was kind of trending at an unsustainable rate. So missing that mark is actually a positive, weirdly enough. But based on the totality of last week's data, it looks like there's a higher probability of the often discussed soft landing that Fed Chair Powell loves chatting about. Um, all the speculators, not all the speculators, most of the speculators, just the way the data is shaken out, are pricing in a 25 basis point cut later this year. Um, and you could see with kind of going in step with that was the 2 year Treasury was down 19 basis points from the prior Friday to last Friday's close. So kind of a lot going on last week. Again, we got this week off. Oh, one more fun thing. The Fed is, I'm going to try and say this slowly because it took me like 6 tries to understand what they were getting at. They're slowing the pace of reducing its balance sheet. So they previously had 60 billion coming to maturity without being reinvested, and they're dropping that number down to 25 billion a month, beginning in June, I believe it was. So they've taken the balance sheet from 9 trillion down to 6.7, and they're going to continue shrinking the balance sheet, but doing it at a slower pace than they have been. So all good stuff. Questions, comments, concerns, please do not hesitate to reach out. Hope everyone has a great week, and thoughts and prayers with the Kroll family as they welcome baby Hank into the world. Have a good week.